Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice, and it's by user HelpWThis. My fiance's old friend is saying her daughter is mine. Before I, 30 male, met my fiance, I was in a relationship with another woman in my early 20s for 3 years. It was a very toxic relationship that I got out of and completely cut contact with her. She also happened to be my fiance's childhood best friend, but they lost contact when they graduated high school. She's only mentioned her friend in passing, and I'd seen some old childhood photos of them. However, we never made the connection that her friend and my ex were one and the same, since she's got a pretty common name. We only found out recently because my fiance tried to find her so they can reconnect and maybe have her come to our wedding. They have met and talked. Then my fiance showed me who she is and I told her. My fiance knows now she's my ex and I'm not comfortable with an ex at our wedding. But apparently she's been trying to contact me since finding out I'm the groom. She managed to find my work and came to see me in person this morning. She tells me her daughter is mine and I left before she found out she's pregnant. Her daughter is 6. The timeline matches from when I left her. I'm not sure if my mind is playing games on me, but I am seeing a bit of resemblance in some of the photos she's shown me of her. I really don't want this to be true, but she says I need to take responsibility for my child and she's willing to do a paternity test if I don't believe her. She never tried to find me before because she knows what she did to me, but now that we happened to find each other back in our lives, she felt this was her opportunity to come clean. I've learned all this today and I'm still in shock. I don't know what to tell my fiance. She knows her friend is my nightmare ex. Now there's the possibility we have a child together. Not sure how she would react in this situation. Hell, I don't know what to do right now either. The only thing I can think about is the images of her daughter. What the hell do I do with this information? How do I even tell my fiance without losing her? I'm terrified of that happening. Wow, OP, the world is a very small place and this is surreal. However, one thing is really clear. You need to tell your fiance. Just tell her the truth and don't dance around the topic. She knows about your past. She knows how bad of a time you had and how toxic she was to you. You didn't know you could have a daughter with her because still, nothing is proven until you take a paternity test. Now, the fact that your toxic ex is actually offering to take a paternity test might be an indicator, but still, you need to take that test. I wouldn't know if this is a deal breaker to your fiance, but maybe considering she knows and loves you and knows about your past, she might want to help you instead of jumping ship. I see that there's 2 ways this could go. One is that you are not the father and how she needs to deal with her friend, having her in her life or not. And the other one is that you may be the father. So then the question is, do you guys want to include this child in your life or not? And also in the second scenario, you should lawyer up. And what do you guys think about OP's predicament? What would you do if you were in his shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Deleted says, the fact that she's willing to do a paternity test means it's a good moment to go chat to a lawyer about how to proceed or whether to proceed. My guess is a lawyer will advise you to do exactly nothing without a court order. From a relationship point of view, you're going to have to tell your fiance as soon as possible before Crazy Ex does. Keep her in the loop. That's what marriage means. And of course, pause the wedding until lawyers, etc. From the point of view of Kit looks like me, it might mean nothing. It's perhaps just confirmation bias. Go out in the street or a playground, choose a random kid and ask yourself, okay, let's say this one might be mine. Can I see a similarity? And I guarantee you'll see, oh yeah, she or he's got my eyebrows, my legs, my eyes, etc. Bossy Bish says, not gonna lie, this is sus as hell. Why did it take her 6 years? I'm sorry, but if it was me, I would have court-ordered a paternity test years ago, or at least I would have found you one way or another. She seemed to have no issues finding out your place of work now, so unless you were hiding under a new name in another state, it would be hard to avoid. She possibly knew your family members' names, etc., and could have even hired a PI if she could not locate you. This whole 6 years of quiet thing does not add up. You are happy now, and she's alone, so I think high chances it's all for the drama. But be honest with your fiance, and as others said, do not do anything unless you lawyer up. Dashhund Mom 5 says, well, first tell your fiance. Tell her she showed up at your work and everything she told you. Then, tell her you are contacting a lawyer to initiate the pregnancy test and you want all communication between the Nightmare X and you to go through your lawyer. In other words, this isn't going to be a Nightmare X's path back into your life. A paternity test is one step. The lawyer will possibly, if not probably, tell you that if she's serious, she will request the test and to wait for that. It kinda depends whether you believe it's best to wait for her to initiate or if you go to court to request the test yourself. Whatever the case, have the lawyer send Nightmare a letter stating that you have representation and all matters concerning the little girl will be handled through them and to not contact you directly. If she tries contacting either of you privately, considering your history, I wouldn't respond. I would just keep copies for your lawyer. Premarital counseling is always a good plan for soon-to-be married people. Considering what has just happened, I would highly recommend you seek this and work through the shock and fallout with a professional. So, tell fiance, get a lawyer, have a letter sent to Nightmare, and get a counselor. Additional information from OP's comments. I completely agree that my fiance needs to know about this. I'm just terrified about telling her. But before I could let myself chicken out, I already sent her a text earlier that I needed to talk to her about something important, so I can't escape it. We're gonna talk later when she gets home. I know it wouldn't be her fault if she decides that it's too much. I just don't think I could live if I lost her. Everything is going so perfectly between us. This is a lot though, so I get it. And I know I have to do the paternity test. I need to know for sure if I'm a father, and if she's my daughter, I'd like to get visitation and child support in order. The good thing is that money isn't an issue. Even if child support and back child support needed to be paid, it wouldn't put a dent in my finances, so that's the least of our concerns. Alright, well, the community sang pretty much in unison what OP needed to do, and OP is up for all of that. Just one thing, OP, don't go to a playground to take a look at kids. That would be just creepy, especially if you don't have a kid. Now, OP has given us 3 updates in the span of 8 months. So let's move on to the first one that is 3 months after the original post. Hi everyone, I posted about this a few months back. To catch you up, I, 30 male, had a toxic ex-girlfriend years ago that I broke up with and cut all contact because that's how badly I wanted to get away from her. She turned out to be the old friend of my fiance. They hadn't seen each other in years and lost contact way before I started seeing my ex. She never told me she was pregnant, only after 6 years when she came back into our lives like some sick twisted chance of fate. She swore her daughter was mine. Now let's get on with the update. I decided to have an honest sit down with my fiance and tell her exactly what my ex, her old BFF, told me. She needed a few hours away to clear her head, and I get it. I was so scared she was gonna decide this was too much for her and decide that she can't do it. But my fiance, the amazing woman that she is, said we're in this together. We got in contact with a lawyer and my ex agreed to cooperate with going to court for a paternity test, and yesterday we got the results back. I'm the father. This little girl is my daughter and I have missed 6 years of her life. And with the toxic ex I tried so hard to get away from, of all people. She came at us with an "I told you so" attitude and said that I'd better be ready to step up and be in their lives. She didn't even say my daughter's life, she said their lives. My ex seemed really satisfied with this, and for some reason it makes me really uncomfortable. Before this, my fiance and I had talked about what would happen if it turned out I was the father. One thing we discussed was if I'd be a dad or just a father from a distance paying the child support I owe her until she's a legal adult. My fiance didn't feel right with the second one, and to be honest, neither do I. I just can't imagine not being involved in her life, and I would like to get to know her. It's the thought that I'd have to deal with my ex for the rest of my life though that really drives me up the wall. Part of me doesn't feel I can mentally handle that. Knowing how she was back then, what drove me to break up with her then, made it difficult for her to contact me. Everything's hitting me all at once. I'm not sure what to do to process everything. On top of that, know how to make sure to be a good father to this little girl. She's innocent in all of this and I don't want to hurt her. Extended update from OP's comments. I'll be contacting my lawyer today for sure. My main concern is that she'll want to use my daughter against me or try to make it harder to have some sort of custody agreement because I do want to be in her life. I had hoped maybe she changed, but I've seen so much of the old her since she came into our lives again. It gives me so much anxiety because I don't want a repeat of everything that happened back then. But I want to be in my daughter's life. She didn't ask for this and definitely doesn't deserve my ex to be the only person in her life. We have a guest bedroom we plan to use as her room when the time comes. Since we know she's my daughter now, we're making preparations. Part of me wants to be allowed to feel excited that I have a child, and believe me, I am, but also couldn't stop feeling the dread that there's no way I'd ever be able to escape from my ex now. I mean, I tried hard to be completely free from her for life only to find out we have a kid together. I want to be there for my daughter and do whatever to be a good dad to her, but I just really wish her mom had been anyone but her. My fiance has been very supportive, but I know it's a lot for her too, so we need a place to let all that out. So after all this, we'll really be needing some therapy. I'm very lucky to have her by my side. I wouldn't have blamed her if she decided this was way more than she signed up for, but she's ready for this permanent change in our lives. She's amazing and I love her so much. Okay, well, OP is the dad and he's stepping up. So now let's move on with the second update, that is 1 month after this first update. Things are still a little chaotic, but I'm glad that I've got a lawyer to ensure everything is done through the court, and we've got the ball rolling on that. Everyone who made comments on my last post made me feel so reassured and less panicked about the situation, especially talking about how my ex and I don't need to have direct contact with each other unless it had something to do with my daughter. I've tried hard to get away from her and her toxicity, so thinking that we had a kid together meant she'll make my life even more hell the way she did before. Well, she still can, but at least I've got a lawyer now to fight my battle. The first issue that came up since finding out was her refusing to let me meet my daughter at all until I gave her $900 that was supposedly for my daughter's school. But I already knew that was BS and I was gonna let it go and wait for the court to grant me visitation. Yes, I will be paying the child support I owe, but I'm not going to hand my ex some cash just like that. At least her mom stepped in and convinced her to let me meet my daughter. Her mom was the one that dropped her off with us. I was so nervous, but it really went well. Shy, of course. After an hour, she really opened up, and it's crazy to know who this sweet kid came from. Playing with her at the park brings out the little kid in me, and we end up having a blast. My favorite thing has been taking her to places she hasn't been to before, and watching her light up. It seriously warms my heart. My fiance left the first meeting be between me and my daughter, but they finally met last week. It still feels crazy knowing I have a kid, and we missed out on this time together, so I have no clue what I'm doing with her. I'm glad to be getting involved in her life though, and trying to ignore my ex and all her BS, make sure it doesn't affect my relationship with my daughter. She's so little and I don't want her to see any fighting between us. My fiance is such a rock star though, she's been my biggest supporter in all of this. I can't believe how lucky I am and do everything to show her how much I appreciate her. Extended update from OP's comments. No matter how difficult my ex makes it, my plan is to keep my promises to my daughter, show up on time and be there. I don't want to mess up with my daughter because of the issues with my ex. It's not fair to her at all. I hope her mom's able to convince her to put my daughter's needs before her own pettiness. Because this is not something my daughter should have to be dealing with, and if things can be civil, that would be better. The idea of being stuck with my ex for life filled me with so much dread. I didn't know there were ways to have limited contact while still having things such as custody and child support worked out. As for my daughter, I'm glad to be getting to know her too, and hope we can become very close in the future. She's a great kid and I already love her. She's already got me wrapped around her finger and I love the time we spent together, no matter how brief it is. I look forward when we can have more time together once we have a custody agreement. My fiance and I have talked a lot about all of this over the past few weeks. I know it's hard for her too. This changes our whole life and we agreed we need to be completely open with each other, the good and bad feelings. She's getting on great with my daughter though, and I'm happy to share this with her even if it's been a lot to process for both of us. She has been so amazing and I love her for sticking by my side. We decided to do a nice little 2-day getaway last week to show her how much I really appreciate her being there for me with all of these huge changes going on in our lives. She deserves it more than anything. Well, considering how things have been a bit chaotic for OP, they also seem to be going really well with his daughter and his fiancée. Now, the final part was posted in the subreddit Off My Chest, and I believe it's a very nice and sweet ending to this whole story. This was posted 4 months after the last update. Now let's finish this story with that. I heard my daughter, 6, call me dad for the first time. Not just that, her whole sentence was, "I love you, daddy." When I tell you I hugged that kid as if my life depended on it, I mean it. She hasn't been in my life for that long, and initially finding out I had a child with the same toxic, abusive ex I tried hard to get away from for years, well, it filled me with dread. But spending time with this sweet angel now is all I look forward to. She quickly moved into my heart, and finally being acknowledged as her daddy by her has made my whole life. I just love this little girl so much. I'm happy and proud to be her father. Well, OP, those words are the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I love you, daddy. I've got 2 kids, and OP, you are right. Hearing them say that just makes your whole life. Thank you for sharing, and all the best to the 3 of you in the future. Take care, OP. Now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user InterestedObserver20. Promote me, but won't bump up my hourly wage? Sure thing. I'll just use your rules to give myself a 50% pay bump. This happened in a company I worked at over a decade ago. I was a technician working on large machines. We had numerous clients and were assigned to a given site. The site I worked on was across a border, so I couldn't live near it, and had an hour commute each way every day. I got no expenses or mileage for this because it was my assigned site. After working for this company for a while, I got promoted to stop doing routine maintenance and work on more complex projects. Most of these projects were on a site near where I lived, so that suited me just fine. However, the company told me they didn't have any budget to increase my wage, which is where the malicious compliance came in. I combed through their rules and regulations as well as my contract and found that if you had to travel to a site that was not your assigned one, you got paid as if you had driven from your assigned site to whatever other one you were working on. My assigned site was classified as being 1.5 hours from the site that I was doing most of my work on, so I was allowed to claim those 1.5 hours as hours worked on my timesheet. So every day I would put down 1.5 hours commute there, 1.5 hours commute home, and 8 hours regular work. Anything over 8 hours worked a day was paid at overtime rates. So for those 3 hours commute, I was getting paid 4.5 hours because my contract said my assigned site was Site A and I was mostly working at Site B. There was nothing they could do about it, and my country has pretty decent employee protections, so I'd have had to agree to a contract change, which I obviously was not going to. They told me numerous times they were going to change my assigned site, but until the day I quit, they were never able to. The length of my commute most days was 10 to 15 minutes each way. Well, OP, you were just following the rules, so they've got nothing to complain about. Well done, OP. Thanks for sharing. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.